When it comes to mind, I always believe awareness is the most important thing because most of the people have no clue what's going on with them. But honestly, I'm telling you, self-awareness and consciousness are two words which are being really used, reused, overused, or whatever it is, but people are not able to understand.
What is that one in the genetic patterns? Have you seen something very interesting?
Yes. We see there is a gene variant which can express as low stress resilience. So that means you are having a normal life, and when this gene is on, automatically your stress resilience goes down.
Do you have any prayers or any kind of meditation routine or anything as a hack that you would suggest that we should include?
Normally, before getting on the stage, I just do one thing. It's maybe a prayer or an intent where I say that.
Good morning. This is Dr. Sweta Adatia, your host on the Limitless Brain Lab podcast. We bring in limitless brains as promised. What is the secret of limitless brain? I have one amazing limitless brain for you, Dr. Sajeev Nair. Dr. Sajeev Nair has so many accolades that by the time I completed his CV, I was like, wow, I have to scan his brain and understand what is going on behind the scene. We just completed a World Biohack Summit where he was the main curator. He's the founder of so many things, one of them being EPLIMO. He's basically somebody who has learned to make you superhuman. The journey from a human to superhuman, and he claims that I was born ordinary, but I did all the extraordinary things to make me what I am today. A wonderful curator of understanding how the mind works as well. Fitness, getting your mind well for getting you to life, the best of the life. You want to become a billionaire, the best of relationships, the best of health, everything that you want, there is a small little secret, and he has known all the secrets. So I am very, very grateful for him today for having us here in this beautiful, amazing podcast station where we will be uncovering, discovering all the secrets. And if you listen to this podcast until the end, I promise your life is going to change. He says that let you become the CEO of your life. So welcome so much, Dr. Sajeev Nair. What a pleasure to have you on the show.
Thank you, Dr. Sweta. Thank you.
You are a superhuman, and I'm going to hack your brain and see what is going to happen. We can download it, and we can send it to people.
Do it. Yeah.
Yes. So we are not going to spare you. We will be looking inside your brain. But
yeah.
I mean, it's so amazing to see all the stuff that you have done in the biohacking space, in the space of longevity, in the space of performance. I personally feel as a neurologist, if we leave alone all the hulas of biohacking and longevity and all, I think living optimum life, living with our potentials, which are limitless, is, I think, everybody's birthright.
Absolutely. There's no doubt about it. I think, I as you mentioned in the introduction, that I don't have anything extraordinary, but the moment I realized that we all carry something which is extraordinary within us, and that realization is something which anybody should have. That's what I was telling before this podcast itself, that, the kind of work you are doing in terms of making people understand their own brain rather than somebody else's brain. That's something which, because we know about our biceps, we know about our triceps, but we don't have much idea about our brain, our body, our cells, our genes. These are the core things which make or break a person. So I think that way, I strongly believe that everyone has got an infinite potential which is residing inside, which need to be ignited. That ignition may happen maybe after listening to this podcast, or maybe doing something for themselves, or maybe some kind of a pain they wanted to remove in their life.
Yeah.
That pain can trigger that kind of an ignition. So whatever it is, I think everyone who's listening to this podcast should realize the fact that they have got a superhuman residing within them.
And when we talk about these potentials and everything, there is no partiality of hours, right? Everybody has got the same 24 hours. And everybody, by and large, has also got the access to the resources if we talk about success and all. But then why some people become successful and some people are able to do what they do, So I think it goes down to the basic of that ignition, that motivation,
True,
that factor which leads you. Tell us about your story. How did you land up from an analytical biochemist specialist to the entire world of biohacking?
Yeah. When I was, my MSc Analytical Chemistry, and after that I did my post-graduation, I never thought that I'm going to get into this space. I never, you are all especially people like you have an education pattern. But people like us, we don't have any pattern. We just did whatever that point of time was in demand in the market, Oh, MSc Analytical Chemistry was demand in the market, so we did that course. Then after that, there was MBA was a high demand. I did the course. But after that, I had some time with the corporates and in the managerial positions. But soon I understood that, I wanted to, find my own kind of destiny. That's where I started my entrepreneurial journey. That time also, I was not very clear about the wellness or that kind of stuff. It was more of entrepreneurship. That was the only thing which was there in my mind. Then came in 2000 when I was introduced to the world of nutrition and nutritional supplementation. And that must have been the turning point, the first breakthrough. And that was a realization, because a common man never understand that you can take control of your own health.
Beautifully said.
Yeah.
That you can take control of your health. In fact, I keep saying, Doc, that the meaning of the word doctor is not to treat or, to heal. It is to teach.
Yeah,
To
exactly.
teach what is health, all
Exactly.
about.
Yeah, so when I understood about nutrition supplementation, I was like, oh, this is what it is. And because I come from a pharma background also, because I did work with pharmaceutical companies. So where we are trained, taught that diseases are normal.
Yes.
And
you
need to have
break it
medicines.
and then you have to take maintenance for life.
Yeah. So here is a completely different picture altogether. And way back in 2000, when I read a book called Wellness Revolution by Dr. Paul St. Pilzer. Paul St. Pilzer was the economic advisor for two American presidents. And he wrote in his book at that time in 2000, he wrote that healthcare is a misnomer. The industry has to be renamed as sickness industry.
Oh, beautiful.
Because he said, in any country for that matter, the largest contributor to their GDP is healthcare. Healthcare industry is the largest contributor, or food industry, one of this. And they are kind of, when one fails, the other succeeds.
So when food becomes medicine, everything is sorted. But when medicine becomes food, you are
exactly
in problem.
Now, he says this, when you are having this industry which is contributing the highest to the GDP, look at the businesses which contribute to the GDP, to that industry. Hospitals, scan centers, doctors, pharma companies.
True.
What are they dealing with? They are all dealing with disease, sickness.
Very true.
When do a customer approach this industry? Only when they are sick.
Very true.
So that is why he said that this has to be renamed as sickness industry rather than healthcare industry. And even now, nobody has understood it till now. Now, the another interesting fact he said is that any industry to thrive, you need to have customers liking that industry, yes or no?
Yes.
Healthcare industry is one industry people hate. Who wants to go to a hospital?
Very true.
I've never seen somebody on a Sunday saying, hey, today I have nothing to do, let me do a MRI scan. Nothing like that.
Very true.
So even after that, that industry contributes the maximum. So he says, suppose if there is a parallel industry which can build so strong that people approach the industry with their own likingness, then this can become the largest industry in the world. That's what wellness industry is all about. Now it is $7-8 trillion now. So that was kind of an inflection point in my life where I decided this is the industry to be in. And I started getting deeper and deeper. 2004, we started a wellness clinic in India. Maybe the first of its kind at that point of time, along with one of the medical doctors. He was an ENT surgeon. He got sick and tired of the normal conventional treatment protocols. And then we started the wellness clinic. 2007, I think 2007, we introduced the nutritional IV for the first time in India. And 2008, we introduced genetic testing. 2003 was the year in which the Human Genome Project was announced. I was lucky enough to undergo a genetic testing in 2005 when I visited the US.
Oh, wow. That was 20 years back.
Yeah,
Nobody knew about
Nobody
all
knew.
the genetic
Even I was amazed,
markers.
with one drop of saliva, so
Yeah.
much of information can be gathered.
Correct.
And then 2015-16 was the time I became more passionate about the field of longevity, human performance, mainly because I've been doing a lot of peak performance conventions and events where starting from motivation, we mix a little of neuroscience and make people understand about how their brain functions. And then I realized that in the 2016-17 was the time when I realized that I'm nearing my 50s. So I should maintain higher energy and high performance levels post 50. So my selfish interest made me to get into the space of longevity. And that was a fascinating world. And I connected with many of the longevity researchers. That's the time I came across a word called biohacking. Though the word has been there in the West for the last maybe 2015 onwards, because it has come from Silicon Valley. That is why hacking part of it.
Yes.
So, but in this part of the world, like India, Asia, Middle East, nobody has been talking about it.
But I feel, Doc, that we were already biohackers. If we
Yeah.
look at our ancient wisdom,
Yeah.
all the traditions, right from drinking a chai,
Yeah.
the cup of tea itself has so many ingredients which are anti-cancer.
Yeah.
Your cardamom to ginger,
Absolutely.
the coffee that we spoke about today, right? I think we already had a lifestyle which was integrating biohack.
But doctor, I think you'll appreciate that the key factor here is when it comes from the West, packaged in a branded way.
Yeah, it sounds nice.
Yeah, because I know the kind of things what you do in terms of the mantra, chanting.
Yeah,
These are all the ultimate biohacks.
true.
But some or other, when it comes from the West, fermented food. In South India, we have been using only
Oh,
fermented
yes.
food.
And that is the best for your gut microbiome.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Grounding earthing.
Yeah.
My grandfather never used, the footwear.
Ah, yes.
So
Very
they were always
Always
grounded.
grounding,
Now it has
yeah.
come in as a packaged thing as grounding. Breathwork is $1 billion industry now.
Yes, very true.
Breathwork is $1 billion industry.
I was sitting with a young kid, 16-year-old, and I said, look, you have been taught math, you have been taught physics, you have been taught chemistry. Has anybody taught you how to breathe?
How to breathe? Yeah.
which is
Yeah.
which is
Yeah.
a fundamental question,
So
right?
basically, you are right. We are all biohackers, especially people who live in this part of the world, especially the eastern part of the world. They have been practicing a lot of things, but we never knew that this is biohacking. This is something which, how it is being effective on your brain, our body, our mind.
Correct.
We never knew. So that's what I coined everything as a book called The Making of a Superhuman. And after that, I thought it's not enough people. GAN is one thing, but at the same time, people should have tools, methodologies, processes by which they can implement that in their life. That's where in 2019-20, we launched a company called Vieroots, and V means life, roots means roots, so roots of life. And where our intention was to provide hyper-personalized preventive health solutions. That's objective with which we started. The first thing what we did was we started with a comprehensive genetic testing, and 275 health conditions. That means on which are you carrying any gene variant which can lead to those disease conditions? Identify them. That was the first starting point. Some or other, I was not very happy with the findings because I got my report and I have got high risk for coronary artery disease. In fact, to understand my risk factor, I don't require to do a genetic testing because my father died from heart attack.
Oh,
My grandpa also had the same thing.
history itself.
So I know that I have the So the only thing I'm keen on knowing about is that what could be the trigger? Because as you know, genes are loaded guns.
Correct. Absolutely.
So only thing what we should be looking at is what could trigger.
Yes.
So that's where we in 2021-22 onwards, our entire research team, medical team started working on finding the triggers using correlations. So that time machine learning was not so popular, but we started using machine learning also for this. So we started getting reports. We asked people to go through metabolic assessments, and then we started correlating data. So that epigenetics is the ultimate factor, not the genetics, how the genes are being influenced from outside.
Outside environment.
Yeah. So that if we could figure out, say when, for example, in my case, I have a gene variant for coronary artery disease 1. Okay. What other gene variants may I have which can trigger this gene? So we found that I have got a gene variant which always keeps my homocysteine level elevated. So there is scientific evidence that homocysteine has got a direct.
Which is not good for your cardiac health.
Now the question is that what is the factor or trigger which is making that gene that is responsible for elevated homocysteine? What is that gene? What is the factor which is making it triggered? So then we found that there is a mutation on my MTHFR gene. And then we narrowed down and we found that my case, in your case, may be different. My case, genetically, I'm deprived of absorbing B9 vitamin, folate. Now, interesting thing is that what is a hack? Some people say, you always talk about hack. What is a hack? Here, the hack is simple. So once I got my report, once I got my recommendation, which we call it as EPLIMO, Epigenetic Lifestyle Modification. Once I get the recommendation, I've been recommended that every 3 to 4 months, I need to do a regular blood test and find my value for homocysteine. And my recommendation says that I should keep it around 10 or below. That's safest mode. Most of the time, my value goes up because there's a genetic inclination.
True.
Now, if I goes above 15, you know very well that will lead to another heart disease. Then I go for a methyl folate supplementation for 2 weeks, and then I again do a test. It drops. So that's the hack. It's specific. It's not like eating a B complex.
It's customized solution.
Yeah, because eating a B complex was always creating problem for me because I have another problem genetically. That is, I have a high concentration of B6.
Okay.
So the moment I take a B complex,
It'll
I get
trigger it.
almost like neuropathy kind of an effect.
Extra.
So, yeah, so this is quite interesting because nowadays people are eating B complex just like that.
Very true. In fact, not just B complex, doc. I think the overall supplementation, people are not doing it scientifically.
Absolutely.
Because I get patients, they carry bag full of stuff,
Yeah.
and then they display it all on my table, saying, "I'm taking creatine also, I'm taking curcumin also, and I'm taking God alone. It's all lion's mane also." So I think supplements are to be taken seriously.
Yeah.
That's not something which
Absolutely.
you can just go over the counter. I mean, it's a little bit of an industry thing as well, that everybody is pushing the supplements of all kinds. Post COVID, there was a huge
upsurge. Yeah, huge upsurge.
Huge upsurge.
I think in Dubai, I think most of the pharma stores, 50% space is occupied by supplements.
Yeah.
It's good, but at the same time, I think you should know that whether you need it, what is that you require.
Correct.
Yeah, and how much you require. I think you need the support of people,
Absolutely.
experts.
So I think the supplementation, as you rightly mentioned, can be hyper personalized,
Absolutely.
which is based on your genetic.
Absolutely.
So tell us very very basic about, let's say there is a person, 35-year-old gentleman who's struggling with life, very much stress, sleep is of course gone, there's a lot of stress from the boss, there's relationship issues and everything. So if I am starting my journey as a 35-year-old person, where should I begin my journey of being superhuman? What is that basic step that I need to take?
Interesting, yeah. So I generally say that, optimized human is the best thing, because extreme for anything is bad. Yes, anything in excess is bad. So always you have to maintain optimum. And as long as you are maintaining optimum, it's all good. Like coffee in optimum is good.
Wonderful.
Everything in optimum is good. Sugar in optimum is good. Now, how do I find my optimized level? That's a big question now.
Correct.
See, I think the most important thing in biohacking, or whenever you talk about performance, longevity, all these things, is that you should have your own data. Most important thing. Your data means, number one, your genetic data, which is a core. Like when you are born, that's the data, the original data which has been coded in. Though the science says, or maybe medical science says, that the genetic information carries only 1 to 2% weightage, but that 1 to 2% can create all the havoc in the world.
Very true.
So if you know the genetic information,
and I think in the good old days it was all very expensive. Nowadays, it is an investment. I always say that
once in your lifetime.
Yeah,
once
you never spend. You spend for your all fancy clothes.
That's right.
But you this is an investment for life.
Yeah, that also once in your lifetime.
Yeah, very true.
So once you decode your DNA, understand all the kinds of gene variants you are carrying, which can lead to different diseases. So that gives you a blueprint. Now you go and identify the epigenetic factors, which could be the triggers. And then find out the expert, like we have the genetic counselors. So they are experts. So they can advise the person saying that, hey, these are the triggers. These are the kinds of risk factors you're carrying, and these are going to be the triggers. And this is the kind of lifestyle modification you need to make to block the trigger.
Very true.
Okay. And once you're blocking the trigger, maybe you may require the support of a health coach for a period of time, because there may be minor, lifestyle modification, behavioral changes for that matter. And once you do that, you are almost like sure that, you are preventing to a certain extent most of the lifestyle diseases, number one. Number two, as you are a brain expert, you know that your brain is being very well controlled by your gut.
Yes.
So if you know your profiling of your gut microbiomes, which are in trillions in number right now, like more than your human cells. Now, you know about your profiling, and if you have something terribly bad in your microbiome profiling, fix it.
In fact, I had it, doc, So when we started to do a study of assessment of the brain along with the gut microbiome, I said, I'm always the first volunteer because I want to read that data, as you rightly mentioned. And I think beautifully our principles align. Whatever you can measure, you can manage. If you don't measure, you can't manage. So when I got my diversity score between 0 and 8, it was just 0.5. And it was miserable, I said, oh my God. And then one of the persons in our lab, Manisha, and for her it was 6. And I'm like, what do you do? And what was her answer? I walk barefoot. And then I'm like, okay, walking barefoot is giving a good gut microbiome. I went and read all the literature, and
there is
there is a connection. So how small little things
absolutely
make a big difference.
It's an amazing thing. So once you have done that, I think maybe nowadays the cognitive health also is super critical, like what you do and do this brain profiling, and then making people understand about their cognitive features and all those stuff. That's also, so I think the first and the foremost thing is that get data. That's the core. Once you have the data, then maybe that you can use technology to get the data stored. Like what we are doing with our program is that in our EPLIMO program, we have a super app called Trigger, TRIGR. So in this super app,
we are going to put all the links here because it is very, very important. As he mentioned, data is key. The moment you know that, everything gets fixed. And rather than just going and buying some supplements or reading on ChatGPT, this is a huge, again, problem, right? I mean, there's nothing wrong. We all go and access the data. But then finally, this gray hair and all the experiences that goes behind the scene, we can match those patterns pretty well. And hence, I think in wellness industry or be it in healthcare industry, human intervention is the final sort of nail in the coffin.
Yeah, absolutely. There is no doubt about it. And so once you get the data, for example, in our app Trigger, TRIGR, we have, once your genetic profiling is done, that genetic data goes to the app. And now, interesting thing is that you can ask there is a health concierge inside the app. So you can ask the health concierge, say anything, like in the sense that you're going to Japan. So you can ask, say I'm going to Japan, which all dishes I should avoid.
Yeah.
So you don't require to go there and check about the menu and all those stuff. So your concierge will tell you that avoid these dishes. Or recently, one of my friends who had a minor stroke, I think it's almost like a transient attack. And he was, the doctor whom we are talking about. So he went to the doctor to test it, and they did an MRI and all. There's nothing serious about it. So the doctor, any which way, on maybe a kind of aspirin. Plus
statin.
They also wrote the clopidogrel, and then immediately my friend, who is very much IT pro, he said, "Doctor, if you don't mind, I just want to check with my AI." He said, "What's that?" Anyway, go ahead. So he said, "Hey, clopidogrel safe for me." Immediately he said, clopidogrel is a drug which is good for this, but as per your genetic profile, this can increase your risk for coronary artery disease.
Imagine. The one which we have been taking for ages, which is so-called antiplatelet.
And the doctor became very curious. Doctor said, "This is interesting. So ask him what should I do?"
Yeah, what is the solution?
Then he asked, "What are the other options?" So our concierge gave 3 options, and doctor said, "This is brilliant." And after that, the doctor has referred at least 4 or 5 cases.
No, which is very true, doc, because we don't understand. I mean, as a neurologist, also when we have neuropsychiatric conditions. Yeah. There are so many antidepressants, so many anxiolytics. Yeah. Otherwise, it's just, let's try this. Let's try another agent. But if we do these nutrigenomics or pharmacogenomics, in the pharmacogenomics, you get to understand whether are you metabolizing that or not. Yeah. And in my so many cases, once you have the brain scan, once you have a customized route to delivery of that medication, magic has happened. The person would be struggling for last years, 4 or 5 years, not able to get anxiety treated. And in one molecule, suddenly everything gets fixed.
Yeah, I think the more you study and combine the genetic and the metabolic profiles, there's a lot of surprising factors. Like I found one interesting case. There could be many, but still I personally found one case where someone genetically he's resistant to antidepressants, especially the Prozac kind of stuff, the SSRIs. Now, this guy carries a gene variant which blocks HTT. So for the audience, HTT is the transporter.
Main transporter for
serotonin transporter, So that means he doesn't produce HTT as such.
Correct.
And he has got the problem with antidepressant. So he's a very critical condition. Only a doctor like you can really understand it and make them. There's no point in just going and doing a 5-HTP supplementation at that point of time.
True.
So I think once you have the data, then definitely once you are in front of experts, everybody may not be able to do all this, reading all this kind of data. And you have the kind of tools with you, like the Trigger app, whatever tools you have available. And then once you have all these smart rings and all those stuff, which can read your metabolism, your entire, whatever is happening inside your body on a regular basis. And all this data, if you can correlate, and then I think that's the best way to optimize, and which is happening right now.
Yeah. But it's not happening as much as we would like people to have. Slowly, it's the awareness.
To the extent possible, I think it may look a bit complicated, but what we are trying to do at our company is we're trying to bring everything to one dashboard.
Okay, that's
So
beautiful.
it becomes good for the practitioner and good for the users.
Correct.
That's the objective we are looking at. But any which way to when you are thinking about optimizing your health and creating yourself as an optimized human, I think the core is optimizing your brain, optimizing your body, optimizing your mind. Once you have done these three parts optimized.
So give us one clue into how do I optimize my mind? What is that one thing I do for mind, for brain, and for body? Yes, of course, we go by the basics of genetics, understanding the data, customizing and hyper personalizing the entire solution. But what is that one item? What is your top, I would say, go-to advice?
Yeah, when it comes to mind, I always believe awareness is the most important thing.
Beautiful.
Because you should know what's going on. Most of the people have no clue what's going on with them. You see so many patients, you must be seeing overthinking becoming a major issue.
Yes.
They have no idea what they're thinking about.
Very true.
So I always say that, you have to be conscious about what you think.
Beautiful.
You cannot control your thoughts, right?
Yes.
But you can be conscious.
Very true.
So what kind of a thought has come into my brain right now? Is it really helping me or is it really damaging me? Okay, what is the kind of thought can help me progress in my life? It's like you can switching from automatically generated thought to a kind of controlled thoughts. So in a process. Now being conscious, being aware, you can call it a self-awareness, because our spiritual leaders talk about self-awareness. But honestly, I'm telling you, self-awareness and consciousness are two words which are being
Misused.
really used, reused, overused, or whatever it is, but people are not able to understand. And I make it very simple that, just sit in a place and be conscious. How can you be conscious? I can be conscious about my spinal cord, right?
Correct.
I can be, even though I don't see it,
True.
but I can be conscious. I got a very close friend of mine by name Mohanji. He's a great spiritual scientist. He's got about 10 or 12 ashrams all over the world. He was there last year.
Yes,
at the
in the
World
Biohack
Biohack Summit. Yeah. So I asked Mohanji this question. Mohanji, what's the one thing people should do if they really wanted to get that kind of a consciousness enhanced? He said, just be conscious about your spinal cord.
Beautiful. I mean, imagine that it's such a simple thing, but automatically
now
when you are
the
erect,
moment we become conscious, we will sit straight.
yes, and our mind will also settle down.
Absolutely. Then you can actually define all the science behind
Correct.
it.
Yes.
The cerebrospinal
Yes,
fluid and all those kinds of
absolutely,
stuff
absolutely.
comes into play.
Very true.
So I think when it comes to mind, I
Beautiful.
believe that self-awareness is the most important.
We can, a very rudimentary example is coming to my mind, but this is how we explain to our patient. For example, I had a glass of water and there was muddy water in that. Would I consciously drink it?
Absolutely.
I will not.
Yeah.
If there is a muddy thought which is coming to me, why should I consume it?
Wow.
So it's as simple
Absolutely.
as that.
Absolutely. That's a great way to make people understand.
Yeah.
Yeah. So that's one. And for my brain, I think I don't know, how do you define mind and brain and how do you differentiate? I'm very keen to know about that. But still, I believe that mind exists only when the thoughts move through the brain, right?
Absolutely. It's a hardware software, has to have both in place.
Yeah. So now when it comes to the brain, I think the most important thing what I generally practice is that now, number one, I make sure that I get enough good sleep. That's the most important, because that's where your brain has to get optimized. The automatic system to optimize your brain, I believe, is definitely sleep.
I would like to ask you here that, a lot of people suffer from insomnia. 45% is what the rate of lack of sleep or insomnia, that genetically as well, And a lot of people right now with their lifestyle and everything is literally messing up with their sleep. Yes, we know sleep is such a fundamental biohack tool, which is natural, which is easily available, but we don't consume it. Non-negotiable, but we still abuse it, So what is that one in the genetic patterns? Have you seen something very interesting?
Yes. We see there is a gene variant which can express as low stress resilience. So that means you are having a normal life, and when this gene is on, automatically your stress resilience goes down. So you won't be able to handle even minor stress.
Wow.
The moment the next, the biochemical and neurochemical process,
cortisol and
cortisol
all
level goes up, melatonin goes down, all havoc.
Correct.
So an interesting thing is that we became very curious, because especially when we work with entrepreneurs, some people come to me because I have got a business consulting firm also. So we have more than 3,000 plus entrepreneurs with us. Many of them in the midlife crisis, they call it as a common man's language. come and say that, hey, sir, I don't know what's going on. Everything was going good. I used to handle so much of stress. Now I cannot even handle when my daughter is upset, I'm getting upset. I cannot handle anything. Good for nothing. I feel like, I'm not the right person to sit in the managing director's seat. I don't know. I'm not having interest to go to office, blah, blah, blah. So when we check their EPLIMO, if those people have done it, many of them have got this problem. They are having the gene variant for low stress resilience. And as long as it's not on, you have no problem. The moment it gets expressed, then you cannot control it. Then even if you meditate, you won't be able to meditate. Now, what is making this happen? This is interesting. Now, most of the time we look at the recommendations, you can see that their recommendation says avoid uncertain situations and unknown terrains.
Which is almost impossible to do.
Yeah, but when we ask these people, okay, you're having this issue, you are saying that you lost interest, blah, blah, blah. Tell me about your life in the last 3 years. And most of them have got into some business which they have no clue. Or they went into a country where they had no idea about it.
Okay. So that was the major
trigger
point.
That's a trigger.
The trigger point.
There's a report which is coming out which says that the 4th largest cause of death is change in zip code.
Oh, wow. Oh, really?
Yeah.
Wow, that's fantastic data.
Yeah.
I mean, so look at the stress which comes in along with the change,
And the good news is,
Thank
is
you.
our own finding.
500
samples we took with people who are having this gene variant for low stress resilience.
Okay.
And 94.2% of them, 94.2% of them, they have genetic deficiency in magnesium.
Oh, wow. 94% of them.
So that means they must have been taking a right kind of food or whatever it is. And some point of time, their magnesium intake must have dropped. That must have been the same time they must have gone into an uncertain terrain or uncertain business. Then this gene got triggered.
Now this is clicking me because, magnesium is sold over the counter as an anti-stress and good for sleep. But in the good old days, we never spoke about the magnesium.
That's right.
So I think somewhere there would have been these genetic markers already present, but then the external situations are now getting it triggered much more than what it was in the past.
I don't know whether I'm right or wrong, but I think this information someone has completely ignored or someone has really purposefully covered it up. Because the moment we start looking at it, doctor, I'm telling you, I can give you all the research. Many of those major issues what human beings are facing right now, and you can trace it back to the lack of magnesium. Now, when I talk about it, people think that I'm a magnesium seller, but that's not the purpose. I'm talking from the data. Diabetes. 93.2% of the people who are having a gene variant for type 2 diabetes, they are magnesium deficient genetically. So that means you need about 400 milligrams of magnesium every day
to supplement it.
Yeah. So how much ever food you eat, you are not going to get it anyway. You have no other option. We have got cases where people who run marathons, some people get angry when I talk about it. Everyone cannot run marathon.
Yes.
Now, people just go join the run club and run marathons because we have seen that people who are having this gene variant called prolonged QT genes. So that's
because cardiac they can
so
have
the
a
prolonged
rest.
QT genes, you know, you have a prolonged QT gene. That will be triggered when you get into long endurance exercises or high intensity interval trainings. When it is triggered, it definitely triggers the sudden cardiac death or coronary artery disease. Now, people without knowing that get into HIITs and collapsing on the gym floor.
Yes.
Even after having lots of money in their pocket.
Yes, very true.
And even in that case, we have seen many cases, not all, but a good percentage of the cases, there is connection with magnesium.
So I think the moral of the thing is that, sometimes, yes, things can be hype, but for you, it may mean a hyper personalization regimen. You need it.
As you rightly said, this is a one-time affair. Once you have done it, you have, you go to your information. Based on that, you can design a diet plan. You can design a...
Customized.
Customize your diet plan, the fitness plan. You can tell your fitness trainer, say, look, this is the kind of thing I cannot take HIIT, so
be a little gentle. And
that's
the same thing for the brain, right? What we have been doing with the Neuroscience is exactly this, that You may know your RBC, you may know your hemoglobin, you may know what's in your liver, what's your kidney function, but do you even know what's your cognition like? What's your baseline memory? What is your baseline attention, focus, emotional regulation? And until you know the data, how can you go ahead and fix it?
And nobody knows about that, what you're talking about.
Last week, literally sat up from my chair. I had a 45-year-old, a gentleman who's a consultant, works with McKinsey, big shot fellow, and 45-year-old with Alzheimer's dementia. It was a diagnosed case of Alzheimer's dementia. Now, he started to take a bag and started to walk and say, I have a meeting in Coimbatore. The wife says that meeting was 2 years ago.
Really?
Yeah. So, like the entire world of the family crashes down when we have 45-year-olds suffering from dementia. So I think somewhere again, how simply, very easily you said that, mind is all about awareness. I think in the brain, it is all about, again, that data. I think we are the most privileged generation with access to the data, with access to people who understand all this. It is only sort of, our mind shift, the mind shift from that, okay, I will fix it when it's broken.
That's right.
But it may not be the right way to look at
that
it.
That time you won't be able to see. For instance, if a gene is expressed, you cannot do much about it now.
Right.
Because gene editing is not official or proven.
I think a couple of diseases, they just got the approvals, but very rare and few.
But you cannot expect that to happen.
And somewhere I feel that there are certain things which are controllable, and then there are certain things which are uncontrollable. And largely, life is all about controlling the controllables. So the moment I have control over that, mostly it's a win for me. So we were talking about mind, brain, and let's talk about the body. What is your one thing for the body?
I think movement. Because I as a keen longevity researcher, I have been looking at what could be that real one thing which it should not be skipping, like non-negotiable thing. So I come across many people who are very healthy in their 90s. Even some of them are having alcohol, in a moderate quantity, but very healthy, happy. Few things which I found in common is that they have a very happy surrounding, like in the sense that they have their family which is supporting, or rather in the sense they have at least the friendships, good friendships. And at least I know about 4 or 5 people with whom I spend a lot of time. They walk minimum 1 hour every single day, and they love doing that. It's not like they're forced to do it.
Yeah, my dad's 78 and he is totally like fit. 1 hour walking every day, I think non-negotiable.
Yeah, absolutely. And when you're walking, I think at least, suppose if you're walking for 1 hour, at least about 30 minutes you do that son to walking, like brisk walking, whatever it is. I think that's movement is the most critical thing. Even when you are in the office, every 25 to 30 minutes, make sure your body moves.
Stretch,
yeah. The rest of the things like building your muscle, that's all required because muscle is considered to be your longevity organ. That's all right. But at the same time, unless and until you don't move your body, I think the whole system collapses.
So I think the idea was always move the body and still the mind. And now it's just the reverse. Move the mind and still the body.
That's right. Absolutely, you're right.
And that is where the whole problem has come in.
And we are also finding in the space of longevity the importance of mitochondria and the mitochondrial function, because good old days people always think that aging is all about oxidation. Now the science has changed and they started talking about the mitochondrial functions, and we don't know. Not many people have.
So let's talk to the audience and give them very basic. What is mitochondria and how does it help in my longevity? And
you and me are talking right now because of a mitochondria, as you know, because this is a powerhouse. This is generating the energy. If that cell is weak, everything is gone. Like in the sense that if that mitochondria, which is my powerhouse, if shuts down, everything is down. Now, the most exciting part is your cell, on an average, you have about 40-50 trillion cells. That's what they say. And each of the cell carries about 1,000 mitochondria. And your brain, your retina, your heart, they have each cell carries about 10,000 mitochondria. So that is why aging first impacts your brain or your heart or your retina. Your eyesight goes down and all that stuff. Now, mitochondrial health is so critical because mitochondria, as you and me may be knowing, but the public doesn't know that the mitochondria doesn't belong to us. It is an external organelle which is residing in your cells. And it has got an interesting feature of fission fusion. Like if you don't move your body, you sit somewhere like sedentary lifestyle, This 1,000 mitochondria inside each of your cell can become 500, 200. They fuse. The same way, the moment you start moving, it'll get into fission where it'll start breaking. One become 2, 3, 5, 8. The more the number of mitochondria, the more energy you produce. The more energy you produce, and for producing energy, you need the fuel. You need glucose, you need the oxygen. So the interesting fact is that even when you start moving your body, you are increasing the number of mitochondria per cell. That means increasing a powerhouse per cell. So that is more consumption of the glucose. So which is preventing you from getting into that ultimate disease called the diabetes. Or rather, even if you are insulin resistant, you are actually reversing that process. So I think the biology behind movement, nobody think about.
So do you think yoga also forms a part of the movement?
Definitely. Yoga in the right structured way definitely becomes movement. Movement, when I say walking, means anybody can do it. Yoga, you need an instructor to understand the movement. So yoga, some of the postures, I'm not a yoga expert, I've done it, but still, I think some of the postures are very specific, which enhances the mitochondrial functions rapidly. Another methodology by which you have to focus on because I'm a person who always think about my mitochondria all the time. I always say that, if my energy is low, I always complain. My mother is no longer there on earth, but when I am down, I feel that because my mitochondria came from my mother. My father has no role to play.
X chromosome only. Yes.
So I say, Amma, what's going on?
That's a good way. Yeah.
So that's my mitochondrial connection, and that mitochondria means your mother.
Yes, beautifully said. Mitochondria is mother indeed.
That's Ma Shakti, as per the Indian concept. Yeah, the Shakti comes from that. There's no doubt about it.
In fact, there is a study which we have just undertaken, how Tara mantra, so it's a Tibetan mantra which influences the mitochondria.
Okay.
So mentioning, multiple times and reciting the Tara mantra has certain influence on mitochondria. So we will soon come out with the results.
Wow. I think all this mantras with Ra has got a huge Ra.
Yes.
Yeah, I believe I want to learn something from you.
And somewhere, humming bee as well. Very simple looking humming bee technique, but shown so much of gamma in the brain. When gamma forms in, it's a powerhouse of the brain, which you have access to. Yeah. Pretty much it's like, you go to a bank and then you say, oh, I have access to all the accounts.
Wow.
It's like that,
And another thing what people should practice, I believe, the hormesis, that's a controlled stress. Because that's the best way to enhance your mitochondrial function. So controlled stress, whenever you do anything like, Bhastrika pranayama, it's a controlled stress, like high duty or heavy duty, sorry. Now you think about infrared sauna at around 75 degrees for about 40 minutes. Amazing results, unbelievable results.
What are all the conditions in which people can do it? Pain?
Any condition. I do it almost 3 days a week.
Okay.
Yeah.
As a protocol.
So you do about 40 minutes of infrared sauna at about 70-75 degrees, then jump into a cold plunge for about 2 degrees, which is 2 degree, 3 degree, maybe maximum I can only tolerate about 2 minutes. Some people tolerate for 5 minutes. This is like a mitochondrial explosion.
Because you're controlling that stress so that the body is learning.
Yeah, that's what it's called, controlled stress. So the advantage is you can feel your mitochondria functioning, because after you sit inside the infrared sauna for about 40 minutes and then do a cold plunge, I can guarantee anyone in the world that after half an hour you will feel so much of hunger. Because
everything is consumed.
Your entire glucose is being burned.
Wow.
So I think when it comes to body, it's movement, it's controlled stress.
Beautifully said. And let's hack your routine. Right from the morning when you wake up until the night.
Oh, wow.
What is the daily hack that you have?
I never revealed that till now.
Now you have to.
Yeah. I think I'm not a very, very routine guy, because I strongly believe in your science of neuroscience of I believe in neuroplasticity. I don't want my brain to be kind of an addict to certain routines.
Beautifully said.
Yeah.
I think this is a very, very important thing which most of us have not understood it. Variety, diversity, creativity is what fuels those neurons.
Yeah, absolutely. Because even business-wise, if you look at it, I have got business verticals in 3 or 4 different industries. So the concepts and the thought process which is required for one industry is completely different from other.
Yeah.
So I don't want to get my brain to in a kind of a mode which is like, 8 o'clock I need the breakfast, 12:30 I need the lunch, and the lunch should have this, breakfast should have this. No. I don't do that. So routines are not that much there in my life.
But what are those non-negotiable ones?
Yeah, I'll tell you.
Yes.
I start my day before the sun raises. That's for sure.
Wonderful.
So 5:30 is the time. I make sure that about 6 to 7 hours of sleep I
Is
get every
non-negotiable.
night. Yeah, that's important. You know, my principle is my tomorrow starts today evening. That's my principle on which I work. My tomorrow starts today evening.
I think this is a very beautifully said thing, that my tomorrow starts the previous day evening.
Who told you that at 6 o'clock your day starts? Why can't you think that your day starts, your day? Day means your 24 hours clock starts at 6 o'clock in the evening.
This is fundamentally so important, because in the neuroscience also, the moment you start to visualize how your day is going to be, what are the things that you're going to anticipate, your brain starts to build those chemicals. Your brain starts to have those circuits right before even you actually get to them. The most of the athletes, there's a beautiful data which was on the athletes, Olympic gold medalists and all that. They don't, all of them have the same training, pretty much the best of the coaches, the best of the gears that they have. But people who have been visualizing and preparing their mindset for it are prepared brains, Beautifully said.
Because when I look at it from a health point of view or a physiology point of view, like we always know that people who are on social media, they are getting so much advice about how to have a good sleep, like 2 hours of gap between the dinner and the sleeping time, avoiding the screen time. All this is possible when you start thinking that your day starts at 6 p.m. Your 24 hours starts at 6 p.m. So that is the first thing what I do, is that evenings are very clear for me. Like I don't indulge into sweets in the night, though I like sweets. I don't take coffee. Sometimes I do if I have something exceptional to do in the evening, like 10 o'clock I have some meetings or some Zoom or something, some international calls. Otherwise, after 4 o'clock, I don't take coffee. Morning, I start with plain water, about 2-3 glasses. And the first thing I do is deshi ghee, A2 ghee. 1 tablespoon of A2 ghee. A2 ghee is the first thing which goes into my mouth.
I think this is also a lot of myth around the ghee, that it's a saturated fat and it disturbs your cholesterol, etc. But it's just the reverse.
It's the reverse.
It's just the
absolutely
reverse.
the reverse.
Yeah.
You put some ghee on roti. I'm sure that
Yes.
the effect of the sugar spike is not happening
It's
right
not
now.
happening.
Yeah.
Yes, absolutely.
So, and also for your microbiomes, cherish this, because this contains short chain amino acids. The butyrates, which are your what you say, your
Directly feeding them.
your fuel for your
Yes.
brain. So I'm so fond of A2 ghee. Then we have a coffee in our company, Vieroots. That's coffee Arabica with ashwagandha, brahmi, and ginseng.
Oh, so it's available on the.
Not,
we can put it.
not in the Middle East. In
Okay.
India, it's available.
Ah, lovely.
Yeah. So then I start my day and I do work out at least 4 days in a week. I do work out. I go to the gym and do workout for about 45 to 1 hour. Then, of course, the breakfast, the normal breakfast with some egg, some carb, all the stuff. Of course, I take protein and creatine supplement.
So I will break down this protein myth as well, because I'm a vegetarian, and a lot of the times the vegetarians face this question that proteins is not enough, and somewhere I feel again that's a myth, because it depends on what class of protein that you're taking. If it's a high class amino acid versus a low class, there's a world of a difference, So why don't you tell us what is the magic of that protein,
See, I always see that, the whey protein isolate is the best thing what you can take, rather than anything else. Because number one is that the whey protein isolate has got, digestibility is very high, and all essential amino acids are there inside. And then in addition to that, from vegetarian source also, there are so many sources on which you can get all this.
Pulses and
the
dals
pulses they can get. But make sure that if you are not taking a whey protein isolate would be a good idea, because that contains all the amino acids in the right quantity. And creatine, as long as you're working out, or if you are above the age of 50, creatine is a good idea every day, I believe. And also I know that, doctor, there are a lot of people have got this misunderstanding about creatine and creatinine.
Yes, they both are totally different things. Yes.
So creatine, as you know, is a.
So creatine is also now coming up with some memory.
Because it's a mitochondrial enhancer.
Yes.
See, the moment you are talking about mitochondria, the first organ to be impacted is your brain.
Yeah.
So creatine has got a
In
direct
fact,
impact on
brain takes the maximum energy. It's about 25% of utilization of the oxygen, and it's 100 billion neurons. So, and if this is right,
it is just about 2%
yeah,
of
2%
your body
of
weight,
your body
right?
weight. Yes, exactly. I mean, it's
Amazing.
just amazing. Totally.
Amazing,
Yeah,
amazing.
absolutely.
People don't understand that. That's
True.
an unfortunate part. I read somewhere that 40% of your nutrient consumption also happens by the brain.
Yes.
40%.
40%, imagine.
So that means if you're nutrient deficient, your brain is affected first.
Yeah. In fact, there was a study which just off late was there that when you're eating your food, how you eat the food, like slow eating, will also
absolutely.
determine how you're.
That's another thing I was about to tell you. I eat almost everything, like in the sense that I'm not like, keto, or, no, but I eat very less. And my eating time is very long.
Very true. So you savor and you quietly the brain is enjoying.
It's a disappointment from most of my friends to dine with me because. But the good thing is that they may finish double or triple the quantity than me in the same time. So I'll be there. I'll be steady there. And I always avoid eating in betweens. I don't know whether it's good or bad, but I don't like it. So breakfast, then it's lunch. That's it, period. Then maybe evening coffee, tea. Then it's dinner. So it's in between, I don't just munch.
And we did talk about mind, brain, body, and I think you told all your daily hacks. And these are, this is, as you can see, it is not something which is astronomically different from what all of us. But then these simple things also, we don't do it. So we have to learn a lot. Now, what about the soul? What about the spiritual? Because you and me both ourselves are, spiritual scientists. And I strongly feel that everything begins from inside. Whatever you can fix outside is just sort of the cosmetic part of it. But when you fix inside, outside automatically gets fixed.
Yeah. That's, when you look at that angle, I think the most important thing which is running all these machines is the consciousness. Because you can do all these kinds of things, but still somewhere, I don't know, it was a very interesting paper in which it was written that all this, trillions of chemical reactions which is happening inside your cell every second is being managed by the brain. But
who manages the brain?
Who runs it?
Yeah.
Who is running it? Who is giving that? Like, I always ask this question, I think, to people in all my conventions, saying that, can you put your finger like this? Even I'm asking you to do this. Can you put? So now, okay, that's fine. Great job. Now, if I'm a software engineer, how do I code it? The coding will be something like this. I asked you to put the finger like this. Your auditory sensory apparatus with your ears heard it. Your visual sensory apparatus
saw it.
Somewhere in your brain, there was kind of spark, and then, like in the sense that the action happened, the motor cortex got activated, and now, definitely from your scans, you would be able to spot exactly which part of the brain has got activated.
Correct.
Now, the only question is that who asked that part to get activated? That means where is the commander? You know where the command has gone from, but where is the commander? So that means there is a force which is overriding all this.
Who is the manager of the manager?
Absolutely, because whether you believe in God or not is a different issue.
But some force.
There is a force which is making the earth rotate on its own axis at 6,460 km per hour, making the earth revolve around the sun at 64,000 km per hour, and making the entire solar system move at Milky Way move at 72,000 km per hour towards the eastern direction. Now, the question is that in this entire process, never it changes the orbit.
Yes.
It's all in a rhythm. So that means there is a force which is behind it. That same force is inside us.
I think in the Sanskrit, it's very beautiful. He said, Yatha pinde tatha brahmande. Yatha brahmande tatha pinde. So whatever is outside is inside. Whatever is inside is outside.
Exactly. So that resonance is very crucial. If we lose that resonance, I think that is where we started talking about in scientific language like cognitive dissonance and all the kinds of problems what we face in our physiology. But as long as you are in sync with that energy, you're sync with that force.
So how do you sync with that force?
I think the most important thing is that there are so many factors when I look at it. I cannot nail it in one thing. One is that being aware about what I said right now itself is more than important. See, if I started taking credit of everything in my life, because I did this World Biohack Summit, like it happened.
Beautifully said.
It happened. So I became an instrument, because it was in 2006 when my first book was released, and that book was released by Dakshinamurti Swami. Dakshinamurti Swami is considered to be in music. He was the ultimate. He was a guru to A.R. Rahman and all. So I had the good fortune or blessing to have him launch my book. So from that day onwards, he has been my kind of philosophy. I don't know music, but philosophical guru. And 2000 till 2014 when he passed away. Now, whenever he came to Kerala, he used to live in my house, and so much of concepts I got from him. He's a very, very spiritually inclined person. And you know, when I invited him to launch the book, I called him. I said, Swami, this is a book I wrote, and I would be honored if you can. He said, oh, you wrote a book. You wrote a book. That's nice. So he repeated that. You wrote a book. I couldn't understand what he was talking. Then he came, and then he was in my house. And that time, he was telling me. I said, after lunch, I said, Swami, you can go and have a nap. And he looked at me and he said, you can intend to sleep, but you cannot sleep.
Oh, wow. Beautiful.
You can intend to wake up, but you cannot wake up. Okay, don't get these things onto your head. You said you wrote a book. I am in music for the last 50 years. I have never composed their music till now.
Wow. So it's the due reverence to the force which is running through me. It's a medium, which is...
I changed on my website. There was during that time I had a banner. I am not the violinist, I am the violin.
Oh, wow. I'm not the violinist, I am the violin. Beautifully said, beautifully
Because
said.
So imagine a concert is going to happen.
Yeah.
Why people get into stress? People get into stress thinking that I am doing it. Many people came to World Biohack Summit. They were saying that, oh, you look very relaxed. I said, why should I get stressed? Because I'm not doing anything. I'm just an instrument to run this program. That's all. If something fails...
Yes, very true. So I call myself as a DHL, I said, I'm divine help limitless. So let it come through me. I'm just a courier delivering person.
It's an instrument.
Very true.
So I'm not the author. I am the pen. See,
beautiful.
There is a huge concert which is going to happen. There is a violinist there on the stage, and the violinist is going to come and play. Violin is not under stress. Violinist is under stress. Violin has to do only one thing. It has to have that string proper.
Beautiful.
So as long as your string is proper,
yeah,
you are proper,
yes,
then whoever wants to play, they will play.
True. But do you have any prayers or any kind of meditation routine or anything as a hack that you would suggest that we should include? Because, when we started this journey and we were interviewing performers like you, everybody started to talk of rituals, that this is my non-negotiable ritual. And in that, most of the times, meditation was part of it. Scribing, writing out what is not serving was a part of it. So we came out with something called movers. Meditation, oxygenation, visualization, exercise, reading something affirmative early in the morning, and then scribing. So anything in relation to...
I think I may be an exception.
Oh, wow, wonderful.
And when I do big sessions, like thousands of people, I normally, before getting on the stage, I just do one thing. It's maybe a prayer or an intent, where I say that, now this is the occasion, and I say, I'm here. Whatever you want to do through me, do the best.
Beautiful. I think
I just leave it to that.
Lovely. In fact, there is a beautiful study which has just come out in Harvard, and it's going all over the social media, that when you talk to your body, it listens. When you talk to any of your organ, and we just conducted a very interesting experiment where we gave 5 minutes of gratitude practice to every single organ with Monica Singhal of Hari Om Smiles, because their entire organization is all about Shukrana, which is gratitude, So we just told the volunteers that every day use 5 minutes only to thank all your organs. I mean, heart has been working for me last 45 years. It never stopped a minute. Otherwise, I would have had a CPR, right? So if just thank it. And 21 days, we were able to reduce the blood pheno age by 3.28 years. Just simply, pre and post 21 days of an experiment. So I think body also listens.
I strongly believe in that. I always, I'm not saying that as a ritual or a kind of routine, but still, whenever I get time, I always, even when I have certain pain or something happening, I try to heal by myself. I focus on that area. And because I strongly believe that if there is a force, Okay, which can make all these things happen. Why can't it make it happen?
Yes, very true.
It's like what Doctor, you are also talking about, the belief and the kind of neural pathways which are formed in your brain when you're connected to the beliefs. So it all depends on the belief. As long as if you don't believe, whatever you do, it is not going to work. See, there are so many people I know that in the morning, 20 minutes, 30 minutes, they close their eyes and they do meditation after attending some training programs or attending
Yes.
listening to somebody's speech. And they say that even after 3 months, nothing is happening in my life.
True.
So I asked them one simple question: that do you believe that's going to happen? They said, I don't know.
Very true. And that's it. That's the make or the
I
break,
said,
right?
don't waste your time.
Very true.
Get on to something else.
Very true. Very
Unless
true.
and until you don't believe it, how your brain is going to function it.
Very true. In one of your websites, by the way, it's a beautiful display of everything that you have written. I loved reading every bit of it, and you said you are the CEO of your life,
Yeah.
and we're talking to so many youngsters, young audience. I think from my end, I would call it the chief energy officer in today's
Wow.
time, not really the
Yeah.
executive, because if you have the energy, you will execute it. So tell us a little bit about it before we end this show.
Maybe that thought came because I worked with a lot of entrepreneurs. Like in our business consulting from Brahma, we have had more than 3,000, 4,000 entrepreneurs or other small and medium scale companies to scale up. And most of the people, they always believe that the things which are not happening in their life, somebody else is responsible. It could be circumstances, it could be the market potential or market opportunity or challenges in the market, the competition, the kind of invasion of AI and all those kinds of different things. They never consider that they are in charge. Many of them, I'm not telling about everyone. So the moment you start understanding that you are in charge, number one. Number two, many entrepreneurs, CXOs, they go for a lot of training programs. You know what kind of trainings they attend? Most of the trainings, if you look at it, most of the trainings they go through leadership programs or whatever you're calling it as. It's either to build their vision, create a vision board, have dream, goal, blah, 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 all those stuff. That's required, definitely. Without a vision, the brain will not set you into action. And then the other kind of trainings are all about the skill sets, the expertise, where sales skills, communication, negotiation, leadership skills, all those kinds of skill sets. Both are required. But where they're failing is execution. Most of them. They have the vision board in their office and everything is set. They have got the skill sets. They have a great negotiator, great communication and all those stuff, but they fail in execution. And when we say fail in execution means it could be decision-making capabilities. You know about negotiation, but you are sitting across a person for a negotiation, you're failing to do that. So I strongly believe that when it comes to execution, it is your executive center, which has to function.
I think that is the prefrontal cortex, which we have been talking about, right?
Exactly.
That is where your exact decision, executional abilities, ability to take action and to see what is good and bad for me and quickly get the past and the future connected,
Because unless and until you don't optimize your brain, I don't believe that you can succeed in life. So that's why in Biohack Summit also, second I did a session that biohacking is not just about biology. Biohacking is about life success. Unless and until you don't optimize your brain, that means you have to give the right kind of food to your brain, you need to give the right kind of exercise to your brain. You know that the good thing about the brain or the bad thing about the brain, most of the people don't know that brain is a trainable organ, number one. Number two, biceps I can train for 3 months and I can build the biceps, and after 6 months, for 6 months I don't do any exercise, it's gone. For brain, if I train, done.
Yeah, once and for all. I don't have to go and relearn the cycle, which I have already,
Absolutely,
learned it so many years back.
And then comes your energy.
I think, before you come back to energy, I think this is a very important point that you mentioned that, for anything that you want to do, execute, it's only that one-time effort to build that brain's pathway. The moment that brain's pathway is built, you are set for life, So
once in your lifetime.
Absolutely.
Yeah, you take
said.
3 months, 4 months, train it.
Take it whatever it takes,
Find
do
out the right coach
to.
and go through the training.
Correct.
That's now, when it comes to energy, that's your physiology, that's your cells, that's your mitochondria. So you need to have an optimized body for that. Now, optimized body includes your optimized gut, because that's from where everything starts. People talk about happiness, sadness, and all those kinds of stuff without even knowing that it's all connected to chemicals. And all these chemicals like serotonin, dopamine, all those kinds of stuff, there's a lot of connection with the gut and the kind of microbiomes you are having. Because when we do this genetic analysis, we see lot of correlations. Like people who are having problems in breaking down L-tryptophan into 5-HTP and then to serotonin. So you need to understand that biology. That's where I always recommend that if you really wanted to have a superhuman life, a very successful life, decode your DNA, understand about your possible probable diseases, and how your genes responding to various nutrients, how your genes responding to various fitness programs, and create your own protocol. I would like to have, I don't want you to get into a keto diet or paleo diet. I want you to get into Dr. Sweta diet or maybe Zan diet or XYZ diet. So your own diet, your own fitness, your own exercise. And then another important factor which I've seen is the emotion.
Very
Because if you want to succeed as a CEO or a CXO, you wanted to drive teams, you need to deal with people. If you want to deal with people means
deal with
dealing
emotions. Yeah, very
and
true.
unless and until you don't know how to deal with your own emotion, how can you deal with others' emotions? You're upset, I'm down, I am up, you are not down, your brain is down.
Yes.
Fix it.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Just do that, whatever
Yeah,
it takes.
fix it, because unless and until you don't fix your brain, you don't fix your body, you cannot fix somebody else's emotion.
Very beautiful.
So you need to understand how the emotions happen, what is the chemicals behind it, what kind of, maybe it could be because of some nutrient deficiency.
Yeah. True.
And then comes the most important thing for a CEO kind of a person, when you want to run your own life, it's environment, because you tell me 10 of your closest friends, I can tell you who you are. This is what Napoleon Hill said. Like that, whom you are associating with, what you are listening to, whom you are listening to, what kind of connections you are maintaining. Because you teach people about mirror neurons, right?
Yes.
Now, you go to a movie theater and watch the movie for some time, and after that, you become the hero.
Yeah,
because your mirror neurons started reflecting that hero into you.
Absolutely.
And after, I have seen people coming.
The body language changes totally.
Like Shah Rukh Khan and they are coming out like the hero for 2-3 minutes, and after that, the brain recognizes, oh, this is Sajeev.
Very true.
And imagine if your same mirror neurons are exposed to somebody for a longer period of time.
Oh, absolutely.
You become that person.
Yes.
You become that person.
Beautifully said.
So you should be very careful about whom you are moving around with.
In fact, there was a scientist called Dunbar who studied this in the chimpanzee, Okay. So he said that how to get the best of the chimpanzee's brain. So he studied that the number 5 is very important. The 5 most influential chimpanzees around that brain influence that brain.
Look at that.
And there are companies, Doc, in the US where they have 150 because 5 in the outer circle, then 15, 25. So the multiple of 5 until 150 makes a difference in the cognition.
Look at that.
So,
look at that. So
yeah,
I think you should be very careful about whom you are hanging around with, because it is not the toxicity of other people are affecting you. Become toxic because of them.
And somewhere I think we often fail to recognize this part. We try to often blame ourselves also, and we try to take that self guilt and self this. But sometimes you just have to detox yourself from that situation. You have to give yourself that chance to just come off.
Absolutely.
I think we live in a world very much VUCA. There's no question about it. VUCA is volatile, uncertain, complex, and ambiguous. This is going to remain, with all the new inventions, etc. and all. But somewhere the power still of how to handle that VUCA is within us.
Yeah,
and
amazing.
As you rightly said, if the mind, the brain,
VUCA effect.
The VUCA effect, but it won't affect me because I'm already prepared, So if I prepare my mind, my body, my soul, and as you rightly mentioned, my mitochondria, my energy, my emotions, then I think I'm set for life.
Absolutely. I think each and every person who really want to succeed in life and they want to take their life forward, they should realize that all these things are critical. It's not like just attending a mind power program or a motivation program is not going to make significant. That's all important. But at the same time, unless and until you don't work towards optimizing your body, your brain, your mind, and getting connected with the ultimate power, nothing is going to work out.
Beautiful. I think that is what we have been talking also in our Limitless previous sessions, that, motivation is good, but the advice may stay only until the door. But the day you change your physiology, you change your wiring, your life has to change. Absolutely. Your wiring of the brain and the body is wiring of your reality, and it will be a new reality, So now I'm going to ask you some very, very quick questions, which I want.
Rapid fire.
Yes, very, very, and it's going to be fun because thank you so much for all of you audience also. And if you do have any questions for Dr. Sajeev Nair, I think he's one data bank, he's one knowledge house, power source who understands your cells right from the basic. It's always about bottom up. And I strongly feel, Doc, that all this should be taught to the youngsters, because the earlier that you start, longevity is not about living long years, as per me. Longevity is about living life in those years. And life in those years can only come when you have an alignment of your mind, brain, body, heart, and connecting to the big source or the power source that he just mentioned.
I totally agree, because we are living in a world where there is a geneticist who came up and said that the child who is going to live for more than 1,000 years is already born. And there is this guy called David Wood and Jose Codiaro. They are Nobel Prize laureates, geneticists. They say by 2045 death will be optional. So that means once you understand the kind of possible probable diseases and the triggers, if you block the triggers, you block the diseases. So then it becomes optional. It's your choice. Now, when it becomes your choice, then the next thing is that what kind of a life you are going to live. Exactly what you said. How many years you are adding to your life, or how much of life you are adding to your years. So that's exactly what you are talking about. And I think that right now the advantages with all this latest science and technology advancements, this is all possible. Like the way you are making people understand about the brain through the scans, and maybe 20 years back nobody must have ever thought about it. Now that science is available, make use of it.
Very true.
That's the most important thing. Don't go with that good old thinking process. I'm not against it. Like even now people go only for subconscious mind training program. It's good. I'm not saying that that's bad. But that's a 1960 theory. Dr. Joseph Murphy wrote Power of Subconscious 1960. At that point of time, neuroscience didn't exist.
True. We never knew how the brain's wiring was so quick, easy, neuroplasticity.
Now you have got so much of science available. You have so much of techniques available.
Beautiful.
Apply that and create the best version of yourself.
Beautiful. Amazing. So the rapid fire starts now. What if you were not the biohacker? What do you see yourself as?
I think I should have been a successful entrepreneur anyway.
Entrepreneur.
Yeah.
If not an entrepreneur. Because I would have been a food photographer, if not a doctor. The colors just attract me.
I had never thought, but I think it's a very good question, because even speaking from stage and all those things came to me. I didn't acquire it. I was an introvert. Even now I'm an introvert. I don't go much to the social functions. And in school, college, I never did any lecture, anything, nothing.
Oh, wow.
It all happened just like that. So I think in my life, most of the things have happened. I didn't really do it.
Amazing. And if you were just left alone, you were the only whole and sole person on an island, what is the only thing that will come to your mind? Would it be rescue, or would you be happy? Because there was a study which was done where people were asked that.
I'm very happy alone.
Yeah. Because you said you were an introvert. So.
Yeah, so I can spend a lot of time just being in a place and with myself.
Correct, because people misunderstand this thing. Loneliness can be painful, but solitude is something which wires the brain.
It's a brilliant thing. And that's a time you get to know about yourself and the kind of things happening inside you, the kind of thoughts going through you. I think it's very interesting. Even in a crowded place, I can be alone.
Wow. And solitude and at peace by the self, which is the key. If you were not born in India and Kerala, where else do you think yourself being born as a hypothetical birth?
That's the greatest blessing, which I believe that, being in India, born in India, especially in that part of the country, had I been given a chance, I would definitely opt for same place.
Same place. I think that is the God's own country, right? See, I think this is the beauty of the truth and the wisdom and the ancient sciences that we come from. And whatever the tree be, wherever the tree be, it's still the roots which are so precious. So same for me. I would have answered exactly the same, that thank you for making this birth as an Indian and understanding all the roots of us as Indian. I think Ayurveda and all the yoga all the breathing practices, you name it, and everything is what we can be proud about. So at the Limitless Brain Lab also, we call it the ancient truths but modern proofs. So today, what did you see was how your genetic data can help you in making a superhuman. Superhuman is not just a fancy concept. It's not something which is in the book and which I need to just listen as a gyan, which is very beautifully put by Dr. Sajeev. It is something which you and me can start doing right now. So I want you to put in the comments, what are the changes are after listening to this that you are going to make. Yes, of course, we will make all the tools available, or the EPLIMO access and the access to all the genetic libraries, all the case research reports. You will have everything to read, but remember, supply is supply, but apply is what will make a difference. So go ahead and do that. Thank you so much, Dr. Sajeev, for
Thank you.
being
It was
us
an
on the show.
amazing conversation. Thank you, Dr.
Thank you.
Shweta.
Thank you so much. Thank you and namaskar. You saw Dr. Sajeev Nair is in the making of a superhuman for all of us. His 30 years of experience understanding your genetics, mapping it, and then deciding. If you have been doing all the exercises, the gyms, the workouts, but nothing is working for you, despite that, you land up having problems. So it's high time for us to have an individual genetic blueprint. When I did my assessment, I myself realized that there are certain things which I am not suitable for. There are certain exercises which are not working for me. There are certain triggers which I would have never known about. So it's high time for preventive care for our lives. So let us go ahead and do the EPLIMO assessment, get a proper coaching counseling, and then make all the decisions. So there is a special link for the community members of the Limitless where we are offering 10%. And I thank the entire team because this is the first step towards the healthy building of not just you, of your family, of the nation and world at large. So go ahead and do your assessment. Talk to us as you need us because it is very, very important that all the triggers are identified. Lifestyle habits are built properly. You continue to do that, and a point in time you say goodbye to all the diseases. Your entire life, your entire day is mapped by appropriate measures which are customized and tailored for you. So see ya until the next episode.